Hello, Dave here. This mini morsel is learning JavaScript with me. I'm going through a book. It's called Modern JavaScript, and it's by Larry Ullman. Here's his site, www.larryullman.com. You can look into the book if you wish. I picked up the book, got through the first 3 chapters, a lot of background information. Finally, chapter 4, there is something to actually do, and starting out with a slightly more than hello world, not much, but there's 2 pieces. One is the shopping calculator, and one is the volume of a sphere. They're basically the same, although the volume of a sphere introduces the math object. So let's start with looking at some actual JavaScript code. So here in a text editor, I have shopping.js. JavaScripts end with the extension JS, and sphere.js. I'm not sure if that's a requirement or not, but requirement or convention, we can stick with it. And these are the exercises from the book, so I stuck pretty close, just changed a bunch of the names around to protect the innocent. The only way I can learn it, I have to type it and I have to change some names so I know where things are coming from. For example, these ID values and these function name values. I obviously gave it something funny, but anyway, so here's that first program. It's basically 3 parts. There's a window.onload part, function 1, and function 2. Function 1 does the listening, while function 2 does the actual work. And if we look at sphere.js, it's basically the same thing, just a lot less in the function area, although it does use this global math object to show us that that it's always available to us to do the absolute value, pi, raise something to a power, among other things. These are the examples shown. We're also using a number method called toFixed, and we use that in both scripts. toFixed basically converts it to a string and limits the number of digits after the decimal point. So this is what the actual JavaScript code looks like, and the way it's linked into the page. This page does not have JavaScript on it, but let's go ahead and go to the shopping calculator. This page does have JavaScript, and the markup for that page is here, shopping.html, right? Standard HTML page with, at the very bottom, the last item before the body tag is this script tag, source js/shopping.js, and the closing script tag. So if we look into a Windows Explorer view, and again, here is one location I have it. That's not where we're actually running it out of. I mean, I went ahead and moved this up to my site and created a subdomain, js.davecoast.com. You're welcome to go and take a look at it if you wish. But the code is executed out of the JS from the root or whatever directory this HTML, shopping HTML, is located. It's going to look for a subdirectory and then an actual script file called shopping.js. And here's the structure. I have an index.html. Let's move these guys out of the way. Index.html, right? Index.html. Here's a page, and this is just to allow me to call my HTML script pages. And once again, I've started out with chapter 4, shopping calculator and volume of a sphere, and we'll see what ones get added as we move forward. So we have the index.html page, as you see here, and then we have shopping.html and a sphere.html. Shopping.html, sphere.html. Yeah, let's go ahead and shopping.html, sphere.html. So there's our HTML pages, and here's our actual source for those pages. So I have index.html, shopping.html, and a sphere.html. And you'll notice in sphere.html, the script source is sphere.js. Well, going back here, I go into JS and I have my two JavaScript programs. And here's what the actual code is inside those. And we just took a look at those doing these functions. So far so good. So I have the shopping calculator. It has a form on here, and we can see how it looks. 1, 2, 3, 4 fields within the form are going to get passed, and one field is going to be returned. So quantity and price and tax rate and discount, and then what is our total. And again, you get much fancier. We're just getting the feel of talking from the document to the JavaScript file and making it work together first, and then slowly, that's what I'm expecting in the future chapters of the book, is you build upon these basic concepts. So once again, we're at Hello World, but you got to start here to be able to move forward. So looking at the code in here, let's go ahead and take a brief walk through window.onload. So that is saying that when the window completes loading, onload, set this value equal to this function right here. Let me know when the button is clicked. Right? So this function, let me know when the button is clicked, sets a variable equal document get element by ID called calcform when and calcform.onSubmit. So when the button is clicked, execute bag of goodies, and whatever is returned from bag of goodies, place into this item. So the calcform.onSubmit is the event listener, and once it's listened to, or once it hears something, it is triggered and takes effect, then we execute this bag of goodies function up here and go through these pieces. And we'll walk through these in detail in the debugger. It'll be a little bit easier to see what's going on. But again, the flow is bottom up. So on window.onload, when this window is loaded, and if I refresh that, window.onload, now it's listening for this button to be clicked. When that button is clicked, right, let me know when the button is clicked, then it will set the calcform.onSubmit equal to bag of goodies, which is executing this function right here. All right, so when I click this form, it executes that function and updates our total. And the same basic activities, right? Window.onload, listen for Dave. Then we execute listen for Dave. It's doing a document get element by ID called calc form dot on submit and set its value equal to the calc for Dave function. The calc for Dave function executes these here. Same exact program flow. The only difference is these two lines, this is using 2 lines, where this is using only 1 line. And this 1 line is basically the same. It just seems it's the net result is the same. Just doing it 2 different ways. One declaring the value, the variable, and then setting that variable's on submit method equal to bag of goodies, or doing it all in 1 line. Can't say much more about that. Anyway, so there's our shopping and sphere. And if we look at the sphere, same basic type of thing. If I click that button, oh, it says please fill out this field. That's fine. I'm going to put a 3 in there, right? And here's that value. It worked. Hitting enter also. Hitting enter issues this on submit. But basically, when the window's loaded, load all this program. And the reason it does it backwards is it needs all of these pieces of the puzzle to be built in order for this to be kicked off. So it kicks this off and then it kicks this off, but it all has to be defined. And that's, I'm guessing, is a function of an interpreted language. Whereas if you were doing a compiled language, you would probably reverse this order because everything is compiled together and not being loaded 1 line at a time at runtime. It would load the entire executable object. All right, so now we have some JavaScript code placed in the right location. It is linked or invoked or executed or loaded based on the script tag out of the HTML. And we have that for both of them. And I do have a styles.css out here. I know it's kind of sloppy, but I'm playing around and learning as I go. Once again, back to the HTML here, you'll see that the critical piece of the puzzle, right, is this form. I guess I can just highlight the tags here, right, is this form. These are the variables or values that we're using. Notice that we have quantity ID, price ID, tax ID, discount ID, total ID, and calc.me. Oops. And if we look at our shopping.js, well, we have quantity ID, price ID, tax ID, discount ID, right? That's where it's getting these guys from the get element by ID from the document, right? So this is how we talk between the 2 pieces. And here's where it's returning the total ID value after we do some calculations on it, right? Pretty simple calculations. I mean, we're basically doing multiplication, division, addition, multiply, subtraction, and using this toFixed method reduces the precision to 2 decimal points. So probably the best way to see how all of this works together in action is through Debugger. And that brings us back to the wonderful and talented Mozilla Firefox. So if I come back out here to the main showcase script, I can playing around with navigation a little bit there. But anyway, let's go ahead and start here. Here's our form, and again, that's just this HTML rendered. Here's that form. So if I go ahead and use the wonderful tool called Firebug, let me minimize that a little bit and raise that up a little bit here. And if I inspect an element, let's inspect this element right here. We can see the ID is discount ID, and this is how it's styled. I guess we don't really care that much about that, but that is the fun stuff. But once again, this discount ID, this is how we get this into here. So there's that discount ID, and get element ID by discount ID. Just one other spiffy thing worth seeing on here is that if you look at this page with the tools, and if you go into Web Developer Inspect, it basically shows you all of the pieces of the page. You see that that's showing that those are A tags. There's our H1 headings. Here's our entire main area. Here's the actual form or the field set. There's the calc form, JS form. And here's our little IDs here. See how it just zooms in on those? Very easy to identify what you are working with. Right? This is a label. But very cool here is 3D view. And by doing 3D view, let me zoom in a little bit here. Just move that over, and you can see if I inspect this right here, oh, look at that. That's sticking way out there, and it's off here. Just gives you a quick way to see where your mistakes are. So I go, ooh, there's a mistake I have, and I'm sure it was when I was trying to move where this button was showing up on this line, trying to line it up. Didn't want to spend too much time on markup, because after all, we are messing with JavaScript here. But just want to show you some of the spiffy features that are available through Firefox. That's why this is the developer of choice browser. So let's get rid of that. Go back into Firebug. And you see now I'm in Firebug here, and Firebug has this wonderful thing called script. If I click on script, ooh, it says script panel was inactive during page load. Reload to see all sources. Okay, so I reload, and look at this. Here is our JavaScript program. And I have a couple of breakpoints preset here. I apologize about that. Let me get rid of those guys. I'm going to minimize this again. And let's reload our page. I'll blop back out here, bop here, bop here, and hit reload. How about that for redundancy? Now, when I reload the page, it doesn't show those breakpoints being preset, because I want to show you how I'm setting them. Not that it's that complex, but once again, here's script. Here's our script. Window on load. Function. Let me know when the button is clicked. Function bag of goodies. Ooh, looks wonderfully the same as this, because it is. So now that I have my code on my actual live page here, we can debug. Sorry, let's step back for 2 seconds. Just want you to also know about the console. This console here allows you to enter JavaScript commands down below. For example, var xyz equals 22.55556677, right? And it says undefined there. Well, let's xyz, right? So xyz is equal to 22.555667, and then I could do xyz equal and xyz dot to fixed to, and I believe that notice that it changed it to a string, but anyway, you can test your JavaScript code right here in the console. Going back to our script, let's go ahead and take a look at basically the first executable statement within bag of goodies is this variable, defining the variable total. If I click over here on the right side of this line, or on the left side of this line, I get a little red dot. That's setting a breakpoint. So now that I have a breakpoint set there, we can interact with our page. Let's put in some values. I'll put in a quantity of 25, a unit price of 15, a tax rate of 5, a discount of 11, and now I will click to calculate, and look at what happened down here. Oh, why can't I move that up a little bit? There we go. It's got to be able to grab it. So here it is, so we can see all of our code. I guess I can see it right there. You'll see that we have this watch window over here. Notice that it has all of our fields here, but they're all undefined right now. And this, which is a reserved thing, that's the current thing you're working for, is equal to form, and that's the pound calc form, and the class JS class. So if we go back to shopping.html, form, ID is calc form, and the class is JS form. So we see that that is currently this variable. We can open that up, look at additional details. But right now, the program is stopped at our breakpoint, which is the first. I skipped the use strict, but the var total here, it is about to execute that line. So where you see the yellow, it is just about to execute it. It has not already executed that line. It's executed the line above it, but not that line. So I have these control buttons over here to control the flow of my debugger session. So I can rerun the entire thing. I can continue till I hit another breakpoint or the end of the program. I can go step, which is basically walking through the code line by line. This is the most useful feature because as you walk through line by line, you can look at how your variables change and you can determine whether things are correct or not. Now, stepping over and stepping out, a couple of other features for more complex coding, I wouldn't worry about them. Just this continue to the end and step are the lion's share of your activities. So let's go ahead and step. So we executed that var total. and right, nothing has happened out here. We haven't done anything, right? Our next way, there's our breakpoint, but here we are about to execute this quantity line. So what should happen here is we should load the quantity, this quantity variable, with the document get element by ID, quantity ID value, which is this quantity value right here. So after I execute that, quantity should change to 25. Well, let's execute it. There we go. And if you look, it is now equal to 25. And we go through and we get these four values using the exact same basic command, the get element by ID command. So 2, 3, 4, and here are those values. These are in alphabetical order as opposed to this order. But if you look discount, 11, 11, 15 for price, 25 and 11, I think you get the idea. So now we're going to start doing some math, because notice total is still undefined. We have not done anything except for just say we're going to use a variable called total. And notice that there's no value up here yet. So step again, look at that. It did total equal quantity times price, which is the 25 by 15, giving us 375. And we step again, and that was the tax divided by 100. So tax was 5 divided by 100, 0.05. Step again, tax plus plus, now it's 1.05. I think you get the idea. Total times the tax, right? Now it's 393.75. Total equal total dot to fix 2. So now that's what we're going to execute next. We did subtract the discount from there. And now it's 382.75. Notice that this is now a string, because this converts it to a string, and the next statement to be executed is the document.getElement by ID, right? Its value, put total into it. So I would expect something to happen here. So let's issue that. Now my 382.75, right, which is the value of total, has been placed back out in the document, right? We return false, which seems to be the common way to set it so that it doesn't just resubmit itself. We did what we wanted to do based on that button click. We're done. We set it to false. So I step again, and we're done. So that is walking through the program. That's how easy it is to debug a script in JavaScript. I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. So you see that's the calculator. The sphere volume is using a couple of different objects, or a different object. It's basically introducing this math object right here. For the math object has a method for absolute value, for pi, for raising something to a power. And once again, pretty common math objects, and you can look up JavaScript global math object to see what methods are always available to you within JavaScript. So we took a look at these programs, we put them in debug, we executed line by line to see how they work. We know that the JavaScript is connected by the script tag specifying the JavaScript file and its location in reference to the markup file, to the HTML file. So once that's executed or that's brought in, and it's brought in at the bottom because you don't want any of your JavaScript holding up the actual displaying of the page to your visitor. So that's why this is put just before the closing body tag. And then once we're inside our JavaScript program, based on a certain condition, and for this specific JavaScript program, it is based on once the window is loaded, I want you listening for a button. And we have these happy buttons right here, which execute the actual detailed code. So this code, basically just doing some math, started out with numbers because that is the simplest way to look at it. There's more complex methods involved in strings, pulling uppercase, lowercase, substringing, all those kind of functions is what the rest of chapter 4 discusses. I'm not sure if that's worthy of another video. I might go on to chapter 5, which starts getting into actual program control, which is mostly the if then else type of processing, how you actually control the pieces of the program and how they are executed. So once again, here's a little showcase. It is available out there, js.davecoast.com. Again, I have a shopping calculator and a sphere calculator and just some fun little markup out there. You can go to davecoast.com. I am trying to learn, so any tips, tricks, constructive, even not so constructive criticism, please let me know at davecoast.com. Once again, thank you for watching.